At the beginning of the 21st century, 12 reincarnations shattered the void and returned home in glory. Preach to the world and reopen the space of reincarnation. And then batch after batch of young people have entered the infinite world. After 4 years of 12 reincarnations changing the world, Li Ping entered his own battlefield for the first time. P.S. Although the introduction is like this. In fact, it is written about 2 spined apes plus machine warfare plus movies plus mythological stews World 1. Gundam Seed, World 2. Lulu Xiu, World 3. Magic Forbidden, World 4. Gundam Unicorn, World 5. Death God keywords of the novel. Pop-ups of the 21st century by Everywhere Big Boss. Download the complete collection of the 21st Century TXT by Everywhere Big Boss, and read the latest chapters of the 21st Century by Everywhere Big Boss. Chapter 1. The Eve of That Day. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The eve of that day. From the moment he remembered it, Li Ping envied Sun Wukong in Journey to the West, who could achieve 70.2 transformations in heaven and earth, and occasionally fantasized that he could also ascend to heaven and earth like a fairy. As he grew up, anime such as Naruto and Grim Reaper made him yearn for supernatural powers like chakra and spiritual power, always fantasizing about having his own soul-slaying sword. In middle school, Li Ping accidentally came across a sentence. In the school post bar, that person said so. If every movie, animation, and TV series we see has a real world behind it that provides inspiration for the author, then this world without any supernatural power is probably the most boring world in the entire universe. At that time, Li Ping thought so deeply. How interesting it would be if the world had such wonderful abilities. And then when he was 14 years old, the world changed. His dream has come true, and his nightmare has also arrived. In that year, 12 divine-like humans returned to Earth. They call themselves reincarnators, winning the final battle of the endless world of reincarnation and returning home in glory. Then, only the Earth knows that this world is not without gods and demons, but rather that people are simply too lazy to pay attention to you. Then these 12 people beat up all the famous demon gods, leaving them with a cultivation system. After that, the reincarnators rebuilt the main god space on Earth. The period between the reappearance of the gods and Buddhas in the heavens and the reconstruction of the main divine space was a hellish year. The emergence of supernatural forces has caused some people to instantly lose balance in their mentality. Words such as divine son and superior person emerged from their mouths. Then they deceive the world and steal names, take advantage of wealth, kill people and steal goods, and do all sorts of evil deeds. But that's not important anymore. Because the new order was quickly re-established after the 12 people returned from beating. The squatting number should be urgent. The rest of the people should go to work and go to school. Everyone will be thrown into the battlefield of the reincarnation on June 7th, when they are 18 years old. After 10 solo missions, the main deity assists in awakening an individual's abilities, or personality. Because there are too many types of superpowers that humans acquire, and superpowers are all enhanced by extracting a part of this person's characteristics. Simply put, this superpower obtained after experiencing 10 initial worlds is called personality. In the following year after the end of the initial world, after a total of 12 team tasks per month, the main god system will determine whether an individual's comprehensive abilities, such as psychological qualities, personality defects, etc., are suitable for continuing tasks in the reincarnation world. If it is qualified, then continue plundering resources, knowledge, and talent in numerous planes. If it is not qualified, then deprive the reincarnator of their identity, preserve the personal physical reinforcement and memories in the reincarnation world, deprive them of supernatural powers, and return to normal social animal life. Of course, the premise is that you have to survive in the last 12 missions, and the 12 reincarnators who rebuilt the main deity will only provide protection to beginners who have provided 10 solo missions. For the last 12 missions, each one will rely on their abilities. I don't know if it's good luck or bad luck, but Li Ping's parents have managed to survive the first 12 worlds with a mortality rate of nearly 30%, relying on the background of 2 ordinary employees from ordinary families. They have also persevered 36 times in subsequent tasks. He is undoubtedly one of the senior reincarnators in the world today. Although they are still working as their own employees, their income is much higher than before. There are 2 parents. Li Ping and his father have loved reading novels since childhood, especially historical and martial arts novels. His 10 initial worlds are Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Enhanced Edition of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Unmatched Warring States, Mythical Edition of the Romance of Sui and Tang Dynasties, Prequel to the Divine List, and a series of novels by Jin Yong. Let Li Ping's father learn a marksmanship that can be considered an enemy of 10,000 people, as well as a thick-back machete that has been thoroughly honed and used to chop people with 3 axes. After that, there will be no major misfortunes and no minor misfortunes. When Li Ping grew up, when his father and Li Ping were drinking and arguing, they found out that there was another saying about people who used long spears. The luck of the world's firearms and soldiers was 1 stone. Zhao Zilong monopolized 12 dou, and the rest owed 2 dou. And Li Ping's mother, Wen Qing, controlled by the Republic of China, is a hidden angry youth and a history enthusiast. After experiencing eerie experiences in a series of Qiong TV dramas, I gained the ability that Li Ping's mother referred to as writing to death. By setting a series of storylines in advance, the protagonist in her story is induced to do what she wants her to do. Later, when my own son took me to read the Death Note, I began to feel that my ability was a bit powerful. You should know that at first, Li Ping's mother thought this ability was quite inadequate. She basically relied on her good marksmanship, modern firearms, and archery skills to complete tasks on her own. Later, I absorbed some ideas from movie animations and began to strive to use my abilities instead of various long-range shooting mission targets. Regarding this, Li Ping's father, who started to take the initiative to cook and wash dishes inexplicably at a certain time, always felt that something was not quite right. After passing 10 initial tasks and 12 team tasks, Li Ping's parents officially became reincarnators. The 2 of them exchanged a lot of money in the real world through precious metals or special resources obtained in other worlds. The life of a family of 3 has improved significantly compared to before. Li Ping's life afterwards was no different from before the age of 14, except that after entering high school, the things he learned changed from cultural courses to a few strange practical skills courses mixed with cultural courses. In the 3rd year after the rules of reincarnation and fighting were established at the age of 18, high school curricula around the world underwent a thorough reform. In addition to studying for 1 or 2 hours every day as a relaxing cultural lesson, a large number of courses that senior reincarnators consider useful, such as directional blasting, wilderness survival, basic skills in using cold weapons, introduction to magic, introduction to cultivation, 15 small skills for interacting with gods, introduction to contract vulnerability investigation, introduction to mental defense, basic combat skills, gun maintenance skills, ballistics, IDE, manufacturing, psychological warfare, public opinion warfare, language skills, tactical sign language, and individual combat skills, have been crammed into high school courses. Just to maximize children's knowledge retention, allowing them to gain practical experience from the initial world through 10 rounds of learning, and thus integrate and connect this knowledge. Try to improve the survival rate of children in 12 mandatory team tasks at the age of 19 as much as possible. Last year's experience showed that after compulsory learning of various practical knowledge in high school, the survival rate of the 12 mandatory tasks for the 19-year-old has increased from less than 68% to 79%. This year, there is hope to increase to 85%. In the evening, Li Ping had dinner at home and sat nervously on the sofa, holding almost cold green tea, staring blankly at the TV. The TV is broadcasting footage of journalists interviewing parents of students who are about to enter their first reincarnation world tonight. Son, don't worry too much. The first 10 worlds were all protected by beginners, and even if you die, you are only forced to teleport back. All you need is to practice the knowledge you have learned in the past 2 years. Li Ping's father sat on his left. That's right, based on your previous hobbies, it's probably 3 types of worlds. Anime, military, and science fiction. Just go in and experience the atmosphere there. Li Ping's mother sat on his right. That's right, buddy. Don't be nervous. The first time you enter, all you need to do is feel the atmosphere. The most important thing in the first world is to let you know what it feels like to execute the main god's task. Then you need to think about how to execute the task and clear the world. Cousin Li Fan, who is 1 year older than Li Ping, sat opposite him. Behind the sofa, at the dining table, and on the floor sat a whole family of 20 people, old and young, all concerned as they watched Li Ping for 3 minutes before the college entrance examination. I'm not nervous, Li Ping came to his senses. I'm just thinking, what would girls look like in the world of animation? Isn't your Aaron Yang, not mistaken, a game character at the time? You know it by looking at her. Li Ping's father rubbed his own son's forehead. Isn't that nervous and foolish? Li Ping turned to look at his second uncle, who inexplicably covered his waist with a cold sweat and a bitter smile. Sitting beside him was a blue-skinned woman, Li Ping's second mother, Emily Lakshaw. Of course, she also has a nickname, Black Lily. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. 001 Initial Task Start. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2001 Initial Task Start, The Last Thing, Brother. Li Ping's gaze shifted to his older brother, who had lost both his eyes and an arm. The first 10 worlds must never be related to any deity, godson, saint, priest, shaman, priest, or anything like that. The big brother looked at Li Ping with empty eyes. If you are targeted by the demon god, you will die miserably. When Li Ping was so scared that he was sweating profusely and couldn't stop nodding, his parents rolled their eyes from an angle that Li Ping couldn't see. Remember, the older brother nodded. Calm down. A buff fell from the sky. Li Ping's mood was instantly adjusted to an absolute calm state of no joy or sadness. No, it's too much. Another halo fell from the sky, and Li Ping's emotions returned to a normal state. Alright, that's it. The older brother nodded in satisfaction. Son, enjoy your first journey well. Son, remember to bring your mother a daughter.in.law back. Ha. I. Before Li Ping could finish speaking, he was sucked away by the spatial cracks that appeared out of thin air. Xiao Jian. Auntie, you promised not to call me that. The older brother's calm expression disappeared in an instant, and his teasing demeanor was completely natural. I remember your injury was caused by the demon saint, divine saint, high priest of the magic church, the light god's son disguised as a man, half-orc female shaman, 7 goddesses, and 3 female demons who simultaneously seduced you into the previous world. After being exposed and chased, did you stay behind? Li Ping's mother tugged at the corners of her mouth as she looked extremely miserable, but in fact, she deserved it completely. The son of Li Ping's father's elder brother, who was only 1 year younger than herself. Wouldn't it hurt your conscience to scare your younger brother with this? My heart was dug away by Selena a long time ago, okay? Big brother Li Jian spread his hand, and the unpleasant smell could waft out 3 miles in the wind. I forgot that you are a heartless person now. Li Ping's mother slapped her head. Li Jian's previous world was still the one where she killed herself and seduced her younger sister, and her heart was dug out by some enchanting sister. She had to transform herself into a semi-elemental creature to survive. On the other side, Li Ping also arrived in his first reincarnation world. Li Ping opened his eyes and started looking around at the environment. Metal walls, but not too futuristic. It should be in modern society, on a ship. Li Ping checked the equipment in the room. Reincarnator LIP 6666, commonly known as Li Ping. You have reached the world of reincarnation and are ready to receive the set memory. A mechanized female voice suddenly sounded in Li Ping's mind, quite pleasant and ethereal. Set the start of memory transfer. The sudden influx of a large amount of memories made Li Ping unconscious on the spot, and he fell to the bed in a daze. After a long time, Li Ping woke up leisurely. Ah! It hurt so much. Li Ping rubbed his head and got up from the bed again. Atlantic Federation Space Force 8th Fleet, 2nd Lieutenant of Shipborne Marine Corps, Security Officer for Confidential Weapon Development, Napoles, Archangel, X-Series. Li Ping lived through the key memory nodes that the system had instilled in him one by one. Up to seed. The personal attribute system is starting, please wait. A few seconds later, a semi-transparent light curtain appeared in front of Li Ping. Name. Li Ping. Age. 18 years old. Level. LV1 race. Human, natural person, attribute. HP, 100/100 MP 100/100 spiritual power. 100 out of 100 strength 12 speed 11 spiritual 10 intelligence 9 reaction 11 physical fitness 13 occupation. Not enabled skill. Not enabled comprehensive evaluation. An average person who has undergone good physical training. Li Ping quickly browsed through the lost information. There was nothing unexpected. Li Ping clicked on the task information to start reading. Task World. Up to seed. This task is a single-player beginner task, and the reincarnator has newbie protection. When they die, they will be forcibly teleported back to the real world. After completing 3 main quests, you can earn 1,000 basic points, return to the real world, and open the point store. 10 single novice main gods choose a world based on the characteristics of the reincarnator. After the novice mission is completed, the main god will help build the abilities of the reincarnator based on their performance and characteristics. Please ask the reincarnator to showcase your characteristics as much as possible. Main Task 1. Survive for 48 hours. Main Task 2. Not opened. Main Task 3. Not opened. Side Task. Unlocked temporary setting. Memory synchronization completed, language synchronization translation completed, reincarnator, good luck to you. Is there a third page left? Task Tip. There are still 2 hours, 55 minutes, and 29 seconds left until ZFAT attacks Napoles. It's only 3 hours left, hey. Li Ping put on the standard combat equipment of the Atlantic Federation Space Army Marine Corps and left the room. There are still 2 hours left until the shift change, so make some arrangements as soon as possible now. Lieutenant Li. An officer drifted over behind Li Ping. Where are you going, fully armed? Major Inoue, I don't know why I feel a little uneasy and want to go out for a breath first. Li Ping stood at attention and saluted in mid-air as he remembered. Really, that would be a lot of trouble. This ship carries the hope of our joint army's victory. Yes. Leaving the dock area, Li Ping looked at the terrain and evaluated the possible direction of the ZAFT Army's MS attack based on the nautical polar structural map in his hand. It should be over here. Li Ping evaluated the landing point of ZAFT's military MS based on the comparison between the animated scenes in his mind and the ones he saw now. Then, the anti-MS landmines applied for from the arsenal were placed on several lawns that the ZAFT Army MS had stepped on in the animation. After working tirelessly for over an hour, Li Ping hastily arranged several IDEs, improvised explosive devices, and anti-MS landmines. Based on his memory, he went to find the person who changed his position. Lieutenant Li Ping, come and change positions. Lieutenant Oler, leave your post. Holding an assault rifle and carrying an anti-MS rocket launcher, Li Ping began patrolling in the strange eyes of his subordinates. By the way, 4 anti-aircraft missile launchers were arranged to fly towards the back of a tall building that would most likely not be visible from a certain direction. This should delay some time. Li Ping looked at the countdown with only 25 minutes left in the upper right corner of his field of vision. Lieutenant, why are you fully armed? Captain Marius Ramirez, dressed in a worker's uniform, walked over. Has the second lieutenant in front of him, who is overly cautious in his daily routine, started to become neurotic again? Captain Ramirez thought helplessly, but his caution had already saved him several times. It seemed like he should also be more vigilant. But this is a neutral country, can't ZFT come over? I feel like ZFT might call today, Li Ping said solemnly. Fortunately, this identity has an overly cautious setting, otherwise it would be difficult to explain. When I woke up today, my scalp suddenly went numb, which saved me several beatings when I was a child. Don't worry, Lieutenant. This is a neutral country, ZAFT won't come over. Captain Ramirez smiled and waved his hand. Captain, this neutral country has already produced new MS and new warships for our joint forces, so it doesn't seem impossible for ZAFT to come over. Captain Ramirez, immediately begin the material assembly operation of the Archangel. 2 ZFT warships have arrived outside of Naples. The voice of a middle-aged man came from Captain Ramirez's walkie-talkie. Hee. Li Ping tugged at the corner of his mouth. Everyone is ready for battle, raise the alarm, and prepare for MS battle. Assuming the enemy invades from the port direction, armed vehicles that can pose a threat to MS should go to the back of the building. Li Ping began to shout at the top of his throat, looking for a sniper position with good visibility based on the combat experience he learned in high school and this set memory. Set up your rifle and search for ZAFT's infiltrating troops on the surrounding mountains. Where are you? Baby. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. 002, Look at this holy shield, mine. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3002, Look at this holy shield, mine. Captain Ramirez, please ship the aircraft and supplies as soon as possible, and we will try our best to delay the time. Li Ping sent a communication to Captain Ramirez. I understand, take care of yourself. Sleeping slot, I still want to board the Archangel. I don't have the idea of dying, okay? Li Ping, while looking for the ZAFT infiltration team, silently roast. Contact the enemy, contact the enemy. The enemy is in the N37 area, on the platform next to the mountain shelter. ZFT assault team consists of 5 small teams. N37 district shelter. Isn't this directly above? Li Ping and the current United Army Supplies Distribution Center are located in the satellite S-37 factory area. N-37 district is directly above Li Ping, on the other side of the cylindrical colonial satellite. Attention each team, once the enemy enters range, they are free to fire. Bomb. Earthquake. No, is it an explosion? The ground shook. What's going on? Captain Ramirez, communication with the shipyard has been cut off. What's going on? Forget it, send out the liaison personnel immediately. Accelerate the supply operation, let the driver go and start the X-series. Lieutenant Ramirez got up from the ground. Lieutenant Li. What have you found on your end? The situation is not good. ZFT elite troops, 5 assault teams, and 5 red-clad team members. Do you have any clues, Captain? Li Ping's sniper rifle kept aiming at the blonde adjuster wearing a red combat spacesuit, seemingly calling him Lasty. 5 red clothes. Captain Ramirez naturally understood the meaning of red clothes in the ZFT army. It's really not good. What about communication with the port? Due to electromagnetic interference, communication was cut off. It's terrible. You guys come with me, prioritize ensuring the 105 and 303, establish a defense line near the remaining aircraft, prioritize moving. I'll go, get down. Captain Ramirez quickly flew to the ground with his nearby subordinates, evading the 76mm machine gun from the ZAFT Army's MS Jean, Kim. Priority should be given to moving materials close to the port and those already loaded onto vehicles. Hurry up. You guys come with me. Captain Ramias, along with a few direct subordinates and 2 frightened ace drivers, ran towards the mining area where the remaining 2 MSs were parked. Steady, steady, infantry follow orders to fire, missile vehicle is on standby, don't rush out, wait in the building for MS missile soldiers. The tactical computer on the arm shows that in the strafing of the 2 MS that just flew over, except for Captain Ramias, the only one on the scene with the highest rank of second lieutenant is himself. Isn't this lying in bed a pit? Half kneeling on the roof, Li Ping aimed at the ZFAT Army assault team flying down from above. Infantry, free shooting, free shooting. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Union soldiers leaned out from various shelters to shoot. On the spot, 3 green-clad soldiers were beaten to death and spun down in the sky. The remaining soldiers adjusted their posture and fired while landing. Suddenly, 2 red-clothed soldiers flew towards the mining area with 2 teams of soldiers. Even with such a small number of people, how dare they divide their troops? Li Ping felt his blood boil. Do you look down on us? He really dares. Li Ping hastily fired a few shots, then killed another green-clothed man before running away in embarrassment, searching for a new shooting location. The AI in the earphones is constantly playing the number of casualties. From the exchange of fire to now, more than 40 Marines and over 200 armed workers who survived the MS shelling on site have died at a speed of 3 to 5 people per second. Sleeping trough, are these adjusters hanging up? Li Ping panted and hid behind a concrete column in a building. Raise the gun and take a glance at the enemy using the integrated camera on the scope. Are all the drivers in the sleeping trough dead? No way. The MS carrier is too far to run through. The MS carrier vehicles are concentrated on the elevated bridge nearly 1 kilometer away. Dong dong dong. A jean was strafing as it landed in front of the tall building where Li Ping was hiding. Don't blame me, natural person, this is war. Jean raised his rifle, pointing to Li Ping hidden behind a weighing column on the 2nd floor. Hua Q. Li Ping ran away and detonated the IDE downstairs through the individual tactical computer on his arm. Boom. What? Jean's foot was so blasted that he slowly collapsed. You're foolish. Li Ping started a military motorcycle and rushed towards the mining area. That bastard is a natural person. Another Jean put away his rifle, drew out his long sword, and wanted to use MS's long sword to kill Li Ping to vent his anger on his comrades. Whoosh, whoosh. After a surviving missile vehicle fired all 8 laser-induced missiles from behind the Jean N, the members drove an automatic lock and abandoned the vehicle to escape. Be careful behind your back. What? Bang. Bang. Jean dodged 6 missiles and half of his wings were blown off by the remaining 2. The control system is unresponsive. Damn it. Michelle, my body is broken. Let's take a step first. You go first, I'm responsible for recycling the machine. Sorry. The green-clad driver ran out of the cockpit and flew into the hands of Thunder, who slowly stood up from the carrier. Isaac, you go first to ensure that the body is given top priority. Okay. Santai was originally a joint force, but now the Gundam, returning to ZFAT, slowly rises and retreats along the route of Jean's surprise attack as much as possible. What a pity. Li Ping rode his motorcycle into the mining area. There's still gunfire, it's not late. Li Ping parked his motorcycle at a fork in the road and cautiously ran along the wall towards the storage area of the remaining 2 machine bodies in the mining area. Dong dong dong. What a familiar gunshot. Really? Li Ping leaned out and glanced at the ZAFT Army assault team, which originally had 24 people, and now only 9 people were left, 2 in red and 7 in green. These 9 people were suppressed by 3 gunshots that sounded like M2HB, and those who looked like M2HB were probably unable to lift their heads due to the heavy machine guns of M2HB. Captain Ramias, are you still alive? Li Ping switched to using very high-frequency communication for close range. Lieutenant Li. Why did you come? What's going on outside? It was lost outside, and 3G machines were taken away, seemingly injuring 2 MS machines. Anyway, we must keep these 2 machines. I know, I'll flank from your right, don't. Day. Li Ping rushed behind the cover. Mom's communication has been eavesdropped. Li Ping raised his assault rifle behind the cover, lowered the monocular monitor in his left eye, and aimed the shot with the camera. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. A few short shots killed 2 green coats. A faint message came from behind, be careful behind your back. The sound of, there is only one door left, was not heard by Li Ping, who was focused on sniping at the few green clothes. Li Ping also attempted to target the 2 red-clad attackers, but they seemed to have opened up the protagonist's aura and couldn't hit them. Li Ping roasted while changing the clip. Rasty. Bastard. Hamana. Replace the magazine and stick your head out. Good guy, all Zaft's people have died. Li Ping rushed towards the X-303 Holy Shield carrier vehicle, and at this moment, the ammunition stored in the mining area had already been detonated by stray bullets, starting to burn and explode. Open the cockpit and turn back to look in the direction of the X-105 assault. Captain Ramias shot a young man into the cockpit of the assault, while the surviving ZFT in red threw down his dagger and flew towards the direction of the Holy Shield. Li Ping sat down in the cockpit and pulled out a taser gun. The remaining red shirt of ZFT, also known as the other male lead, Aslan Sarah, looked bewildered as he pointed a taser gun at his Union soldiers sitting in the cockpit. Superior Motherfu XX. Ah. End of this chapter. Chapter 4003. With a loud roar, the Archangel shines on the stage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4003. With a loud roar, the Archangel shines on the stage. Tie up the corona-stricken second generation official and place him on the side of the cockpit. Li Ping hurriedly controls the Holy Shield to break free from the fixed frame of the MS carrier and slowly stands up. On the other side, the assault also slowly stood up. Captain Ramias. Lieutenant Li, did you actually grab the body? How can one's own belongings be called robbery? Captain Ramias. Let's get out of here quickly, it's about to explode. Boom. Let's go. 2 aircraft flew out of the mining area along the ceiling that was blasted open by the explosion. 2 non-activated color-limited aircraft slowly landed on the ground. The assault controlled by Ramias stumbled forward. Aslan. Jean, whose foot was partially damaged by the explosion, blinked with one eye and looked at the slowly landing Holy Shield. Are you calling this guy? The Holy Shield punched Jean in the face, who was unresponsive, and then used bar *** to shoot Jean's head, luckily taking out Jean's one eye. Damn it. Cursing at his mother, Jean's movements were not slow at all, as he shot and interfered with the Holy Shield's movements while quickly retreating. Ha! Li Ping breathed a sigh of relief. What kind of ghost operating system is Tingyang's? The programmer who writes OS is hired by 3,500 external employees every month, right? Is the distance between NEMA 50 meters and bar *** an error of 1 meter? If it weren't for the 75 mm high explosive disc with a killing radius of 1.5 meters, I'm afraid I would have had to return to the city just now. Captain. Hello, Captain. Li Ping looked up at the communication window. Captain Ramias just fainted with a smile on his face, that teenager. Could you please stop the machine and help lift the captain down? I think she may need some emergency response. Ah, yes. Kira Fury Warrior, who seemed quite comfortable at the moment, never hit the cockpit. Super Adjuster, Prince Obu, plant speaker's husband, Yamato, carefully adjusted the assault to a half-kneeling position and opened the cockpit. Li Ping also has a good body, thanks to the MS simulation driving class in high school. He can also drive MS. By the way, OS programming for humanoid robots is a mandatory course for high school sophomores who also cater to anime and military enthusiasts. The blood and tears of hundreds of reincarnators who have entered the worlds of Seed, UC, W, and 00 have told later generations that the early OS of MS is generally rotten to death, and will not change. OS will eventually be trapped and killed by slow body movements. This young man. Rap Captain Ramia's right shoulder abrasion and waist puncture. Li Ping tried to talk to this group of young men with a bright future. I see that you seem to have a talent for driving MS. Are you interested in joining the coalition? Ah. Kira. Not far away, Miliath and a passerby named A and B ran over. Sorry, could you please excuse me for a moment? The plot has changed. I don't know if it's fun. Li Pingshun picked up the kettle he had brought down from the holy shield. I remember. Aslan woke up in a faint voice. No, you don't remember. Li Ping added another kick and knocked Aslan unconscious again. Are all the surrounding shelters closed? So what should we do? Upon hearing their discussion, Li Ping's mouth curved into a W shape. This second lieutenant. Just call me Li Ping or Li. If you're not a coalition soldier, don't worry about these details. Okay, Mr. Li, what should we do? The nearby shelters have already been closed. Kira had to grit her teeth and come back to ask the oldest-looking person. My suggestion is that if you can control this aircraft, before we get out of danger, you can drive this aircraft to assist us in repelling the ZAFT army, and then after the G.Series confidentiality agreement is invalidated, you can go back to your original days by completing the discharge procedures. In this way, you can also avoid being held accountable for your espionage behavior on this top-secret MS before, but at that time. Young man, although I personally sympathize with you, just like negligent homicide is also murder, if you accidentally come into contact with a confidential weapon jointly developed by the United Army in AB, you have an obligation to cooperate with us in carrying out confidentiality work. The young Kira in front of her frowned and pondered for a moment, then turned around to look at her classmates, especially Maria's face, and looked at her hopeful expression. Soon, Kira made up her mind. I understand, I will cooperate with you to repel ZFT, but you need to ensure our safety. As long as we are still alive, we will not give up on protecting you. It's a deal. Kira reached out her hand. Li Ping was taken aback and gave Kira a high five as a pledge. So. What's your name? Kira Yamato. So, guided by the special wartime regulations, I temporarily recruited Mr. Kira Yamato as our soldiers, obeyed our command, and repelled the enemy's attack. Then Kira climbed up and attacked Gundam, starting to modify the OS. Li Ping arranged for several other boys to drive over the remaining MS equipment supply trucks nearby, and arranged for girls to take care of Captain Ramia's who was unconscious. I also climbed onto the Holy Shield and started modifying the OS. Bang! The people over there, this is a secret of the Coalition Army, come down. Captain over there, we have responded to Lieutenant Lee's call up and joined the Coalition temporarily. I am currently modifying the OS of this aircraft, please do not disturb me, your OS is really terrible. +1, Lieutenant. The enemy will soon launch a second wave of attacks to annihilate us, and we need to unite all forces that can be united. Bang! A big explosion occurred on the central axis of the colony, and a silver MS and a super slim MA rushed out of the explosion. Mobius 0. Is that Shigu? Change your equipment quickly. Quick! Captain Ramia's shouted towards the direction of the assault. Kira's buddies jumped off the MS and the truck mounted the gun components onto the assault Gundam. I'll kill you now. Cut off the Mobius Zero electromagnetic cannon, and Shigu charged towards the side of Gundam. But before the harsh words could be finished, Shigu was forced to avoid by the two glowing beams. When I don't exist. The Holy Shield has activated its PS armor and raised its gun to shoot at Higu. Cut. It's so annoying. Bomb. A massive explosion occurred inside the colony, shattering Higu's rifle with flying stones. The remaining little red beam directly shattered Higu's left hand and shield on his left hand. Cruz didn't even want to speak harshly, so he turned his head and ran away. The machine gun is gone, and the attack shield is also gone. Point your life at the battleship. Are the Allied forces all crazy? Shooting the main gun in the dock. Are you trying to blow yourself up? Cruz was indignant all the way, just like playing Go with someone else, only to find out that the other person first connected 5 pieces in a row and then told you that he won, which was as painful as an egg. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. 004 Archangel with only 2 or 3 kittens left. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5004 Archangel with only 2 or 3 kittens left. Addis, prepare the D equipment for attacking the fortress and sink the Earth Army warships inside. Cruz connected to his mothership's communication. But Captain Addis said with a bitter face. In order to free up space for carrying those 5 MSs, our 2 ships only carried a total of 7 MSs. Michelle's dedicated aircraft was severely damaged and could only be repaired in our home country. The Oral aircraft could not be operated and was left in the colony. Michelle's backup aircraft was slightly damaged and has begun repairs, which are expected to be completed in 2 hours. The Crowell aircraft was hit by MA and was moderately damaged. If emergency treatment is needed, it will take about 6 hours to reach the level of barely striking. The 4 aircraft is severely damaged and needs to be repaired in our home country. The only backup gene that can be used in the short term is cut. Repair the damaged body as soon as possible, and no matter what, gather 3 machines to go out. Cruz hung up the communication. Can't we just call for reinforcements? However, Aslan Sarah's Kia is a good card. Mr. Lieutenant. The soldier from the ZFT army you left over there. Kirata, who initially received too much information, suddenly remembered his childhood friend he saw in the mining warehouse. What's wrong with him? He's woken up again. Is the adjuster's physical fitness too good? Just completed the initialization configuration of the Holy Shield OS, and Li Ping's mind hasn't turned yet. Just like jumping off the body and giving him 2 more feet to fix. No, he's not awake. It's just that I seem to know him. Seems like that. That person, it seems to be my classmate from high school in Copernicus on the Moon City. The name should be Aslan Sarah. Kira Yamato quickly wrote an OS for ground cyclotron gravity/cosmic microgravity combat environments targeting colonies. Have you finished over there? Li Ping crawled out of the cockpit. Not far away, the Archangel has just landed on the surface. It's still 5 minutes, I'm writing a firewall and anti-intrusion program. Kira Yamato's hand speed is so fast that most people can't even see it clearly. Could you please give me a copy of my body later? Good, undoubtedly the strongest new human, it is simply a Doraemon-like existence. After writing the OS, take your classmates to the hangar of the Archangel, and let me handle the personnel matters. Get off the plane and place Aslan Sarah, who is still unconscious, in the palm of the Holy Shield, driving the Holy Shield to the Archangel. Lieutenant Lee, it's great that you're okay. Lieutenant Bucky Lulu, you too. But I'm the only one left in my Marine Corps. However, can you actually drive an MS? It's just a trivial hobby. This is not a trivial hobby. It's just that I can barely get started, and the rest of the OS adjustments still require the boy's assistance. Intuition tells me that the boy can even write an MS OS for natural humans. On the other hand, I remember the lieutenant's family seemed to be able to speak in the coalition army. When the time comes, the protection of that boy will depend on you. Young man. Lieutenant Bucky Lulu blinked his eyes. Raid Gundam carrying 4 students from Napoles and Captain Ramius landed next to the Saint Shield Gundam. That young man is a promising adjuster, don't push him to the opposite side. I know. Lieutenant Bucky Lulu said he had a plan. Captain Ramius, I think we need to start the material handling operation as soon as possible. I remember there is still a partially damaged gene in the factory area over there, which should be repaired and still usable. However. Sergeant, do we only have 2 lieutenants and 5 brigadiers left? Although it was uncomfortable, all non-commissioned officers below the captain were indeed involved in the explosion and killed at the command post. The only ones who survived were the few of us who left the command post and the workers who were handling supplies in the warehouse. Is Captain Ramius actually the highest-ranking officer on site? By the way, I have temporarily conscripted that young man into our joint army according to the special wartime regulations. Could you please go and complete the procedures for him later? Okay, then Lieutenant Bucky Lulu stared at Li Ping's mouth. Because he was using a very exaggerated mouth to say. Find a way to tie those 5 people onto the ship with emotions, not with threats. Wow. Li Ping followed the startled sound and looked over. It was the surviving lieutenants and the leaders of the workers who were marveling at Kira Yamato's youth. Behind them, there are 4 of their own subordinates. Yo, they're all alive, lucky guy. Li Ping greeted the 4 surviving Marines. Lieutenant. The 4 surviving Marines saluted. What about the others? When I left the front line of the factory area and went to the mining area, I was probably the only living person on site. Li Ping shook his head. I don't have time to make you sad, the ZFT army is still outside now. Yes. Are these the 2 surviving planes? The pilots are actually Marines. A blonde pilot walked out from deep in the hangar. Captain Mullah Flag, belonging to the 7th Mobile Fleet, please advise. Captain Marius Ramius of the 5th Spy Division of the 2nd Realm. Belonging to the same group, Lieutenant Nadal Bakilialu. Belonging to the same category, Lieutenant Li Ping. I hope to obtain permission to board the ship. Who is in charge of this ship? All senior officers below the captain have died in battle, and the current person in charge should be Captain Ramius, Bakilialu replied directly. Hey! Captain and the others. What a headache, how could such a thing happen? Captain Flag scratched his head. Anyway, give me permission first, Captain Ramius. Okay, permission to board the ship. So what about those people? The boy in black, named Kira Yamato, is a student from Hyepolis. He appeared in the factory area for some unknown reason during the battle. I took him to G and he is now conscripted by Lieutenant Li. He himself agrees with Lieutenant Li's judgment. After we successfully break through, he will complete the retirement procedures and return to Obe's hometown. I know, but it turns out that children are controlling our MS. By the way, I'm guarding the newcomers who work as pilots for these machines. What about them? Captain Flag glanced at Kira a few more times. When the explosion occurred, they reported it to the captain by law, probably. Is that so? Anyway. Who is that? Wow. Dong. A person wearing a red combat spacesuit fell out of the Holy Shield cockpit. If I remember correctly, most of the enemy assault team members captured in the battle were the second-generation officials of Plant. I'm thinking about doing identity comparisons in my spare time, maybe even making big news. Painful, painful. Kira. Kira Yamato. Aslan. Aslan Salsla is. Patrick Serra, the chairman of the Plant Defense Committee. Hello, young man. Aslan instinctively looked at Li Ping. Smile. A photo of Aslan lying helpless on the ground with his hands and feet tied was captured. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Gundam, standing on the long legs. Ejected. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 6. Gundam, standing on. His long legs were ejected. G's equipment and ammunition priority. Accelerate speed. Marines don't care what's on the material carrier, they can pull as much as they can from near to far. Hello. Students over there, why are you back again? The alarm level in the colony has risen to level 9, and all shelters are locked down. We can't enter. After thinking about it, it's still safe here, Malia replied loudly. Captain Maduk, the paralyzed Keen has been brought back. Where should we put it? If it's water, take it from the factory area. Anyway, it's all abandoned now. Keela June, the enemy won't know when they will come. You should hurry up and rest first. Li Ping and Keela put away the captured Keen. Well, I'll update the firewall of the Holy Shield later and go rest. Thank you for your hard work. Li Ping turned his head and didn't look at the keyboard that could only see the afterimage. Amazing. Fortunately, does the Lieutenant's OS need to be optimized? The Holy Shield's OS is a bit messy now. Can it be done? My research topic at the University of Technology is using MSOS for natural humans, and I already have a deep understanding of it. Now, Kira is typing on 2 keyboards at the same time. The code that Li Ping couldn't understand on the 3 screens was scrolling back and forth. The combat environment is currently only set for space warfare, and the remaining environment will be set later. Oh. Ah. It's already set up. Li Ping couldn't even say. It's not something complicated. I've worked hard. Also, I have some ideas about the battles in the colonies, Kira demonstrated using the information from the Holy Shield cockpit. Assault Gundam. There are currently 5 types of equipment on board the Archangel. Air combat equipment, artillery equipment, sword equipment, water combat equipment, and lightning equipment. Water combat equipment may not seem useful in the universe and will not be considered for the time being. Artillery warfare, the shoulders of sword equipment are equipped with auxiliary armaments, which do not conflict with air combat equipment and can be equipped simultaneously with air combat equipment. I think that large shield can be used in both hands and should also be equipped simultaneously. Can the rocket claws of the sword be integrated into the arm of the assault Gundam? I'm just a squadron leader in the Marine Corps. Are you asking me this to make things difficult for me? Li Ping scratched his head. Captain Maduk. Are you free? No. I'm so busy. It's all in a mess now. Let's talk about it later. Alright, you can try the operation of the Holy Shield. If possible, I'll go rest. Kira and Li Ping exchanged a glance and smiled at each other. Oh, I'll give it a try. Kira gave Li Ping the driver's seat. Amazing, Li Ping tried a new OS using simulation operations. Stop here for a moment, Kira called out to Li Ping and brought over the keyboard to change a few parameters. Try again. Operated the body and redone the previous action, and indeed the slight astringency just now disappeared. If all the adjusters were of your size, the Allied forces would probably have been defeated long ago, right? Li Ping sighed. Hey! Isn't this a regular operation? Kira stopped fine-tuning the OS. I've never seen an adjuster before. You're the first one who can rewrite the OS of an elite MS in such a short time. Li Ping's setting memory also includes some observations from the Eurasian Federation, where there are still a large number of adjusters working in various institutions. The only group of people who truly hate the moderators is the Atlantic Federation. The difference between the average adjuster, a natural person, and Kira Yamato is roughly like this. Natural person. Adjuster. Rewriting OS in 5 minutes is not something that humans can do, right? By the way, Kira-jun, I have something to ask you for. Is there anything else? During battles, try not to use shooting weapons for a period of time. Use shields more often to block enemy fire. Use more bar *** to intercept enemy missiles. Hey! Why? Public opinion war, rendering the universe country plant not paying attention to protecting colonies, but instead the United Army is trying to protect the image of colonies as much as possible. Can it be done? But all of this is built on the premise of your survival. Do you understand? I understand. I will look for opportunities. After debugging the Holy Shield, Kira and Li Ping left separately. Name: Alex Solon. Well, Aslan Sarah. Gender: you don't know how to read it. Aslan understood, and the goods in front of him were mostly coming after completing his own identity verification. Across from him, Captain Flag and Li Ping pretended to be inputting data. You have put us in a difficult position, Mr. Sarah. In principle, you should be treated as a regular prisoner of war, but your father's identity has put us in a difficult position. Captain Flag leaned against the backrest and held his hand to his chest. But what's even more difficult is that according to intelligence, Chairman Sarah already has an irreconcilable hatred towards the Union and natural persons, and it's not bad for you to be like a son. Li Ping also imitated Captain Flag's posture. So, although you have a lot of political value, it doesn't seem like you're that high. So, you're putting us in a difficult position, Mr. Sarah. It seems like handing you over to the headquarters of the United Forces can only be used as a target for flag worship. Li Ping and Captain Flag joined forces and scared Aslan into a wet wolf. After all, it's my first time on the battlefield, and now Aslan is still very young. I think I have some use. So coincidentally, we also feel the same way. The two people across from Aslan nodded in agreement. So, Mr. Aslan Saleh, for your personal safety and for Chairman Saleh's extreme emotions to no longer escalate, we have and only have one plan. We need you to sacrifice your personal image slightly, but there will definitely be no personal injury, said Li Ping with a smile. Lieutenant Li Ping, Captain Flag, Captain Ramius, please go to the bridge immediately. Has it already arrived? The two of them looked up at the ceiling, as if they could see the attacking ZFT army. Let's go. Hey. What plan? You're talking about it. Aslan struggled to stand up. Let's talk after this battle, said Aslan, who looked conflicted and ignored both of them. Gene 3, and X-102 Duel, X-103 Storm. That's heavy bombing equipment for the fortress. Do they want to use it in the colony? Captain Flag looked at the footage and his face turned green. Madoko, is there a thunderbolt shield in the recycled materials? Li Ping sat in the cockpit of the Holy Shield. Yes, but if equipped, the transformation mechanism of the Holy Shield. In the colonies, there was no need for deformation mechanisms, multiple shields and multiple lives. I see, Kira-jun, what equipment do you need? Can air combat backpacks, artillery and sword shoulder armor, and rocket claws be mounted on the right hand? No problem. Change the equipment for the assault, hurry up. This is the Holy Shield, call the bridge. Those two planes are here, there's no reason why Thunder shouldn't come, be careful of Thunder's Mirage system. Understand. Kira Yamato, no, 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 no. Li Ping, Holy Shield Gundam, leave the ship. After two aircraft ejected from the Archangel took off. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. 3 Shots and Surprise. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. 3 Shots and Surprise. Listening to Amuro's famous quote come out of Kira Yamato's mouth, Li Ping felt mixed emotions. Especially the strong egg pain. Originally, it was just a divine shield for rowing, but now why are everyone here except for the divine shield? Where has holy shield gone? Oh, the holy shield is in my hand. Full ship combat preparation, isolation gate blockade, CIWS activation, automatic scanning mode, stern missile launch tube, full tube, Corinth, loading, laser induction synchronization. Prepare for the launch of the Helldart missile, waiting for orders to launch. Lieutenant Bakilialu, the physical projectile is ineffective against PS armor, the main gun laser is linked, and the focus spreads. Captain Ramius turned back and shouted to Lieutenant Bakilialu in the CIC. This sentence made everyone's teeth ache after hearing it. Live fire ineffective, are you using beam main bombardment in the colony? After taking a look at the description of the main gun of the Archangel's beam, the effective range of the ship's main gun can even be as low as 400 meters. The power of a high-energy particle beam 500 meters away is not even greater than that of a high-power microwave oven. But there is one benefit: the excessively diffused main gun beam will be particularly thick. At the very least, the use of the main cannon to attack MS has changed from using a cannon to use a shotgun to attack mosquitoes. Bomb. 2 large assault missiles hit the transparent part of the outer wall of the colony, blasting out 2 large holes that were nearly 100 meters long. Captain Newman, can that big hole Archangel fly out? Captain Ramius watched thoughtfully as the 2 large holes were blown open and gradually connected to the city. Almost, it will take another half an hour to visually inspect. Newman also saw the gradually expanding large hole. After all, it is a transparent frame structure constructed with high-strength composite glass for lighting purposes. After being damaged by external forces, without damage control, the holes will only become larger and larger. Did you record the video evidence just now? Recorded. Very good. There are 5 planes on the surface, maybe there is another one in the dark. It's not easy to deal with. But Captain Flag, why are you at CIC? Shouldn't you be the pilot? Captain Ramius stared at the approaching enemy MS group. Me. I'm just an MA driver. Well, actually, I can't use either of their OS. Hey. You can't use Lieutenant Lee's either. Isn't he also a natural person? It's not that it's useless in this sense, but that the OS of the Holy Shield has already been modified for Lieutenant Lee, rather than a universal OS. These small adjustments in this battle are enough to kill me. I understand. But Lieutenant Lee said, after we go out, let that child make me an OS that I can use. He's more interested in MA. Strange people. Ma. Enemy planes, invading the colony. Encounter begins, Goldfield, fire. The 225 cm high-energy beam guns on the Archangel fired first. Well, you're not mistaken. This thing has a caliber of 225 cm, over 2 meters. Bang! After a Jean's lower body disappeared on the spot, the fuel inside the uncontrollable Jean's body was induced to explode. It is puzzling that the 4 large and 4 small missiles in its composite missile launcher were instantly launched, passing through a large circle and hitting the central axis of the colony one after another. Hey! Are they ZFT here to dismantle the colony or attack us? Li Ping compared. The diameter of the central axis is over 100 meters, and the internal space diameter of the entire colony is about 10 kilometers. At that distance, you have to aim at the central axis for a while, right? Or do you keep hanging the lock on the central axis? We can no longer cause damage to the colony, Kira said as she operated a surprise attack to increase thrust and charged towards Zaf's MS group. Zaf's MS group is divided into 2 teams, one carrying a beam cannon and the other facing the 2 planes in a duel. Kira June. Although I know it's excessive, Jean chops it casually and G tries to catch it alive. Why? 4 MS machines crisscrossed and quickly turned around. I checked the information and found that there are a total of 5 ZFT red shirts from the same period as Aslan, and also from the same team as Aslan. Among them, 4 are Zaf's official second generation. They are the kind of big shots who can influence the direction of ZAFT and the United War. Ha! Kira blocked a beam of Jean's light, her face disheveled. Aslan Sarah, son of Plant's defense commissioner, whose mother was confirmed dead on Bloody Valentine's Day. Li Ping dodged the dual beam, retaliated with 2 beams, and then lit the beam sword hidden in his arm with his left hand, preparing to enter the fighting. Isaac Cure, son of Congressman Isaiah Cure, suspected of being a mistress, is a pro-war activist who oversees Plant's military supply factory. Aslan is the son of Plant Defense Commissioner. What does that Oedipus mean? It's still the daughter of the current Speaker of Parliament, the fiancée A.E. of Lakis Klein. I don't know what the situation is with that suspected Oedipus. Would the joint intelligence officers be a bit boring? Li Ping swung his sword while the duel drew his lightsaber to block the Holy Shield's lightsaber. Nicola Malfi, male and female, appears to have a crush on Aslan. His father, Senator Amalfi, is a plant tech powerhouse and a moderate, but he created things like neutron jammers and MS. Ha! Kira Yamato was distracted and used his rifle to shoot off Jean's arm, originally aimed at his chest. What is that idol? Isn't it a male of the same gender? But he's beautiful. The Holy Shield used the original shield in his left hand to hold the dual lightsaber, while the Thunderbolt attack shield in his right hand aimed at the dual leg and fired. 3 volleys will only destroy the soul of the duel. Cut, you're hiding so fast. Is it okay to be beautiful? The assault dragged its long trajectory and dodged more than a dozen Jean's beam cannons. Jean's beam cannon blasted the ground of the colony into a mess and also destroyed 2 huge cables connecting the central axis on the ground. Running around. Michelle, who was driving a typical broken-hand Jean, exploded with anger. She was considered one of the few green shirts who could have a dedicated aircraft, and even earned the title of Twilight Magic Bullet because of her high shooting accuracy in combat. The slow initial speed of the 76mm assault gun could hit the United Army's MA with a hit rate of nearly 30%, so why couldn't the MS opened by the natural person in front hit her? I took the beam cannon specifically this time. Isn't it true that as long as you look good, there's no problem? The Holy Shield made a sudden stop and quickly rose, dodging the dual shot. This kind of thing. Kira threw her rifle in a disorderly manner, pulled out a beam of boomerang from her left shoulder with her right hand, and threw it out. She accelerated and picked up the rifle. Jean dodged the boomerang and locked in the assault while picking up the gun. Got it. Ding. The boomerang that flew back cut off Jean's right leg, causing Michelle to be shocked. What? The moment the boomerang hit Jean's thigh, the impact force made Jean lean back. Kira took the gun and aimed it at Jean's chest. Kira frowned and then locked onto Jean's 3 limbs. The beam rifle fired 3 shots in a row, and after 3 shots, a Jean stick floated in the air. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. 007 The Collapse of the Earth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8007 The Collapse of the Earth. Who exactly is sitting on that white Allied MS? Aslan looked in shock at the real-time footage of the ship's exterior on a closed-circuit television on the wall of a single officer's bedroom. I, the adjuster, and my own father have spent a lot of money on optimization, making me a hero among adjusters. Even if the MS performance of the Coalition Army is much better than that of the ZAFT Army. No, the MS performance of the Coalition Army is even stronger than that of the ZAFT Army, which is already very illogical. The battle outside with the Red Machine is still normal, it's a battle between the elite new recruits of natural humans and ZAFT. I and others are just students who have received MS training and just graduated from military academies. Although the fact that a natural person can open an MS is quite shocking, it's not a big deal to have a monster in such a large population base of the Earth Army. Although the performance of the aircraft is excellent, the driver's strength is limited and there is nothing to be seen. But what is that white aircraft? The current aircraft is like. How to put it, overall it's like Japan and the United States are fighting. The Type 21 fighter jet of the United States has beaten the F-2A fighter jet of the United States like a grandson, and the Americans have deeply pondered and spent more than half a year figuring out the M4 Sherman with a jet engine, and from a technical perspective, the driver of this cargo seems to be Eric Hartmann, who has not yet grown up. Not only is the machine unable to move with force, but the firepower is so strong that one shot from the opposite side will result in death. Although the skills are immature, their proficiency increases rapidly. Michelle Emin, if it weren't for failing her graduation exam, a reliable red-clad elite who participated in the war for only 6 months would have had hundreds of hits, unique color schemes, official nicknames, and a top-notch ace in the special outfit gene. Just being abused by someone. Bayou, Kira dodged a bit and fired the 4th shot, blasting Jean's propulsion backpack. This bastard. Is he looking down on me? Michelle punched the side screen of the cockpit with hatred. Michelle, what's wrong with you on your side? The pilot of Jean, who was besieging the Archangel, was distracted by the warning of a friendly plane crashing. Captain Flag, who was operating the Archangel's main gun, Gottfield, seized the opportunity and bombarded the Jean with a single shot from the main gun. Oh no! Captain Flag's eyes narrowed as the large fortification missile carried by Jean, who had been hit by the main artillery, was not lured to explode. Instead, it was launched for unknown reasons and hit the colonial axis one after another. The central axis has partially broken, constantly flashing with arcs, and some compartments have exploded due to the twisting of the central axis. Are you here to demolish the colony? Li Ping didn't care about saving energy and turned around to shoot with the beam rifle on the attack shield. Can you also be considered as residents of a space colony like this? Isaac remained silent, listening to Li Ping's roar on the public channel, only silently avoiding the shooting of the holy shield. I have no way to refute this myself, okay? Even now, the Earth Army warship is still the same as the new one, but it's actually the colony of Ob that has been bombed by our side. Moreover, 3 new mechas from Jean and 3 Earth Army, with 6 MSs piloted by 1 ace, 2 elite soldiers, and 3 elite new recruits, are unable to deal with the new battleships where 2 inexperienced MSs and all senior officers have died. It would be embarrassing to say so. Take my move. Storm Gundam connected the beam rifle to the rear of the shotgun, with the muzzle of the shotgun aimed at the Archangel. Left rudder 75 degrees, inclination 35 degrees, full speed. Captain Ramias, who had been watching the last aircraft entangled with the Archangel, Storm Gundam, immediately ordered Storm Gundam to use high-power shooting. In the future, the divine helmsman Newman executed the command without hesitation, and the Archangel narrowly avoided the shelling. However, the colonies were not so lucky, as a huge cable connecting the central axis and the surface was hit directly, causing a large hole to explode. Then, the remaining part of the cable could not withstand the enormous tension and was torn off by the ground. Captain Ramias really wanted to shout to the people of CIC, "We can no longer cause harm to the colony," but his side really didn't take the initiative to cause any harm to the colony. It was all caused by missile shelling by the ZAFT army. Positions X-14, Y-22, Z.7, with dynamic response, suspected to be Thunder Gundam. Bottom CIWS, start shooting. Drive Thunderbolt out. The 475mm CIWS at the bottom of the Archangel covered the estimated position and fired, causing Thunderbolt Gundam to withdraw invisibility, activate PS armor, and jump away quickly. It's truly my own thing, my weaknesses are all clear. Nigel dodged the 75mm shell and looked up at the Archangel, only to catch a disturbing sight in the afterglow. The central axis has been twisted by the surface of the colony due to the force imbalance caused by the breakage of the number and steel cable. Isaac. Dayaka. The colony won't be able to hold on anymore. The distortion of the central axis became increasingly severe. As the entire central axis began to shine with arcs and explosions, the 6 MS and 1 warship in the colony tacitly stopped fighting. The colonial structure could no longer be maintained, and the forced disintegration order was executed. The shelter was shot out. When the central axis twisted to a certain limit, it triggered the disintegration order of Naples. Decent disintegration, fragments slowly flew out, and then large pieces of colonial fragments were controlled by the attitude control engine on the shell, which programmatically decelerated and allowed the large fragments to stay on the orbit of Naples. It's better than flying out of the colony due to a change in the center of gravity of the body. After the big fragments are welded together, the colony can still be used. What if this thing throws itself to Sydney? Not to mention that the colonies can't use it, Sydney is also gone, okay. Cut. Transform the Holy Shield into MA form, triggering maximum thrust to resist the violent airflow caused by the disintegration of the colony. However, in a few seconds, the Holy Shield was hit by a large pedestrian bridge, spinning and flying out of the colony along with the wreckage. On the other hand, Kira instinctively wanted to return to the Archangel, and the attitude control nozzle of the warship could definitely stabilize it, right? Then the assault was flapped away by the main wings of the Archangel, which was waving up and down. It turned out that the attitude control nozzle of the Archangel could not withstand such strong airflow. Sitting in the Jean stick, which had lost her backpack and limbs, and had no spout on her torso, Michelle didn't even say anything about MMP. She fell into a coma because her body kept hitting snookers in the wreckage of the colony. In the end, her body collided with an escape pod, damaging its thrusters. An MS stick and an escape pod floated there, desperately broadcasting distress signals. Not knowing how long later, Li Ping woke up from a coma, his helmet mask shattered, and his head was unknowingly torn, with blood droplets floating in the cockpit. Recalling the method of handling weightlessness taught in school, Li Ping carefully avoided glass fragments and found a small oxygen cylinder and diving goggles for underwater escape from the emergency survival supplies under the seat. After putting it on, quickly bandage the wound around the corner of the eye. Slowly collect the floating debris in the cockpit with a helmet, whether it is sucked into the trachea or seeped into the dashboard, it is troublesome. X303 Holy Shield, X105 Assault, received, please answer, X303. The electromagnetic interference in the wreckage area is gradually weakening, and the radio can now receive the signal. This is the Holy Shield, returning now. Li Ping connected the communication of the Archangel. It's great that you're okay. Please also search for the assault. There are too many wreckages around, and the Archangel cannot locate the location of the assault. Lieutenant Bucky Lulu on the other end of the communicator breathed a sigh of relief. Understand. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Direction of 008's Progress. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Direction of 008's Progress. This is the X-105 raid, Kira Yamato, I need some help here. The still existing radio interference makes Kira's voice sound a bit distorted. Is the body damaged? Priority should be given to checking the air tightness of the cockpit. No, there's one thing I don't know how to handle. No, there's two things I don't know how to handle. Kira's tone was quite conflicted. What? I'm coming over right now. Li Ping locked the signal source and only used the attitude adjustment nozzle to slowly move the body over. This is really difficult to handle. What appeared in front of Li Ping were a severely damaged Jean and an escape pod with a damaged thruster and leaking air. Prioritize handling the escape pod and transport it back to the Archangel. Let Captain Flag interrogate that ash wolf. I need a way to open Jean's cockpit from the outside. It's too dangerous to have the prisoners return to the ship in MS. But Lieutenant Lee, that Jean no longer has combat power. The vehicle will always have an additional bomb. Hey! In less than 2 minutes, ashy wolf revealed Jean's emergency door opening method. Michelle may still be alive, at least for now. There is no Polish chrysanthemum person on this ship. If we surrender honestly, at least Michelle and herself can survive here now. I hope you can confirm the integrity of the driver's driving suit before opening the cabin door. Captain Flag, just pretend not to hear US, buddy. How do you want us to see through the armor plates? Li Ping parked MS next to Jean, and Holy Shield's hands tightly grasped Jean's wreckage. Li Ping tied 2 safety ropes and attached a survival rope to his waist, drifting towards Jean. Found the emergency opening handle mentioned by Aslan and opened Jean's cockpit. Avoiding the jet of air, Li Ping raised his gun and flashed to Jean's cockpit. I only saw a driver with his head down motionless. Are you still unconscious? Li Ping cautiously entered the cockpit, unbuttoned Michelle's seatbelt, and slowly pushed him out of the cockpit. Then he tied Michelle up with a survival rope and slowly drifted back to the side of the shield, tying Michelle to the left palm of the shield. In no time, the assault carrying the damaged escape boat also returned, helping Li Ping push the Jean stick back together. Lieutenant Li, this Jean is so damaged, why do you have to take it back? Kira looked at the Jean stick with all 4 limbs in her backpack. I believe the omnipotent Madoka should be able to assemble a third MS with this torso and the spare parts for the assault shield. Is it difficult to handle driver compatibility? Isn't it you? Karma Face Kira Yamato Limited Edition. JPG Xiaya, why are you plotting against me? Li, you're back just in time. Let's discuss the next path together. Just as Michelle, who was unconscious, was handed over to his subordinates, the Baton MS was handed over to Captain Maduk, and communication from the bridge arrived. Good, we have 3 options now. First, fly directly to the Alza Sea base of the Atlantic Federation on the Moon. Second, parachute directly to the headquarters of the Alaska Atlantic Federation. And third, head to the Aratamis base of the Eurasian Federation for resupply before heading to Earth. Bakaluru prepared a route map slightly earlier. If flying to the Moon, it would take 12 days to accelerate to the maximum extent from the current position, and 16 days to fly to Alaska. The food supply inside the ship may not be sufficient, as we still have to receive dozens of orb refugees on board, and the collection of supplies on this ship has not been fully completed. According to estimates, if those civilians can follow our instructions, the food inside the ship should last for 10 days, but freshwater can only last for 13 days. Speaking of which, Bucky Lulu's expression is not very attractive. If we boil the second-level water and drink it, we should be able to last for another 3 days. However, during this period, we cannot take a shower, use a flush toilet, wash our faces with wet towels, and brush our teeth with mouthwash-free toothpaste. Try to save every drop of water as much as possible. I think everyone should not want to drink third-level water. Captain Ramius added. Secondary water, also known as unpolluted domestic water, such as water used for washing faces and toilets, is used. This Archangel has an artificial gravity zone on board, and civilians are currently living in dormitories in the gravity zone. Toilets and other facilities are equipped with flush toilets and separate shower rooms. The third-level water is secondary filtration water, mainly used for cooling systems, sourced from purified urine, purified shower water, etc. Of course, in general, the cooling system of a warship is also filled with secondary water. For example, this newly launched Archangel doesn't have as much level 3 water for you to use. But the famous cruise team is waiting outside, unable to accelerate casually. Once exposed, crews will catch up, and the acceleration performance of the Nazca class is not bad. With just a few of us 40 people driving the warship, it's very difficult. Fighting is just nonsense. Captain Flag spread his hand. That's why it's proposed to take a detour to Aratami's base, which only takes 2 days from here. Lieutenant Bakiliolu gestured the route to Aratami's. No need for excessive acceleration, just adjust the heading and briefly accelerate to reach through inertial navigation. I don't recommend entering the Aratami's base. Li Ping actually thinks that going to Aratami's is better than everyone being thirsty for 3 days and going directly to the moon, as they won't receive supplies when they arrive in Aratami's. On the one hand, we have not yet logged into the Joint Forces combat sequence, and on the other hand, this ship and its onboard aircraft are highly confidential to the Atlantic Federation, making it difficult to guarantee that the Eurasian Federation will not detain this ship. Finally, Li Ping let out a sigh. How many times have the Atlantic Federation sold the Eurasian Federation? As officers of the Atlantic Federation, do you have any leverage? Will the people of the Eurasian Federation give up on such an opportunity to pit the Atlantic Federation? And the latest special ships produced by the Atlantic Federation in neutral countries and the only 2 MSs of the Earth Army. If we don't disappear, we have to get the data, right? We will be shot like Alaska when the time comes, yeah. The remaining 3 of them lowered their heads and sighed at the same time. So what should we do? Is it difficult to surrender? Let's walk this way. Li Ping drew a curve on the star map. Inertial navigation leads to Aratami's, but does not enter the fortress of the Eurasian Federation. Turn here and head towards the wreckage zone. We gather water and supplies here. Li Ping pointed to a large circular wreckage, which was the wreckage of Junia 7. In such a place. Don't worry about the radiation issue. At that time, the coalition army used fusion bombs with almost no residual radiation. Li Ping thought these people were worried about water sources. It's not a radiation issue, it's a date issue. Captain Flagg retrieved a morning news from his phone. Lakis Klein has departed from plant today for Junia 7, preparing to hold the 1-year anniversary celebration of Bloody Valentine's Day. The news was on January 24th, and today is January 25th, calculating the time. Her ship should arrive at Junia 7 almost at the same time as us. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. 009 Maduk's Little Ideas. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10:009 Maduk's Little Ideas, but it seems that the young lady didn't bring a frigate this time. Captain Flagg then added. Please don't put this information at the end. Bucky Lulu was almost choked to death by a sense of despair that suddenly came out of her chest and was stuck in her throat by roast. And does the news say she brought a frigate or not? Although she is the daughter of the plant speaker, she doesn't have the right to mobilize the army to escort her, does she? Captain Flagg touched his chin, unsure whether the lace ribbon was carrying the escort fleet. It feels awkward whether she brings it or not. With it, her identity cannot be justified. After all, without her identity as the daughter of the speaker, she is just a popular singer. This ceremony is also her personal action, and mobilizing military guards during the war is simply unacceptable. But if they don't bring it, aren't they afraid that the Allied forces will perform Lakis' merciless performance for plant over Junia 7 on Valentine's Day? Hey. Do you want the coalition and plant to break out into a full-scale war? Isn't plant fighting like a bird because that speaker advocates for peace negotiations? Brother, the joint military nuclear bomb bombed the colonial satellite, killing 240,000 civilians. Later, plant dropped a neutron jammer, causing famine and chaos on Earth due to energy shortages. Hundreds of millions of people died in less than a year. When did you have the illusion that this was not a total war? Li Ping looked at Captain Flagg strangely. And you don't know what kind of virtue those chrysanthemum monsters are, what can't they do? Hey. Don't say such words recklessly. Who knows if there are any of their people on this ship? Captain Ramias nervously turned his head to look at the surroundings, and there were only 4 of them in the conference room. You see, is this still a normal military atmosphere? Can't those chrysanthemum monsters say anything? Sogu. The chrysanthemum monsters are heinous. They have caused the United Army soldiers to lament and complain. Li Ping pointed out, anyway, after the mission is over, I ran away. Come and catch me. Ah. The other three sighed with their foreheads. Even soldiers like Bakirolu, who have been in the military for generations, from orthodox to somewhat pedantic, were troubled by the group of chrysanthemum monsters. It can be imagined how disgusting the penetration of the blue chrysanthemum into the army was. Anyway, let's start by passing by Aratamis and turning to the gravel belt. If the ZFT army has a fleet, we will collect supplies from the corners and the wreckage of the ships there. If there is no fleet, we will collect supplies from Junius 7. Although disturbing the peace of the deceased is very unpleasant, it is the priority to let the more than 100 people on our ship continue to live. Captain Ramias made up his mind. At the same time, in the hangar, the damaged escape boat was finally opened by Captain Maduk using technical means, oversized hydraulic pliers plus welding gun. Fortunately, there were no fatalities in the escape boat, only a few unlucky people who did not fasten their seatbelts and smashed their heads during the impact. Fleur. Kira came down from the assault and saw a girl with red hair and a pink dress. Hey. You're that. Say's friend. Where is this? Why are you here? The refugee shelter has been completed, and all departments inside the ship have been fixed. Sergeant Jackie Tanamla, who was transferred to CIC Control Officer, reported to Captain Ramias. Very good, Lieutenant Bakaluru. Bait bomb ready for launch, route, from Naples to the lunar surface. At the same time, the main engine sprays, adjusts heading, emergency acceleration, heading, Naples Aratamis Junius 7. Bait bomb setting completed, loading completed. Bait missile launch. Main engine injection. Lieutenant Bakaluru and Captain Ramias said almost simultaneously. The rest depends on luck. Kira June, let's go debug the machine. Hey. Will the battle still start? Cruz is an excellent hunter. He knows very well that for the Archangel, which had to set sail urgently and its supplies were not completed, we don't have many options. So he will definitely cast a good net in that place. Li Ping pulled Kira towards the hangar. The acceleration performance of the Nazca class is not inferior to that of the Archangel. As long as the Archangel finds the right direction, it will eventually be caught up, and at the speed of the Archangel, it cannot shake off the Nazca class. Therefore, combat is almost inevitable. Oh, Lieutenant Lee, and the fastest upgraded Lieutenant Yamato in history. Captain Flag is already in the hangar. I borrowed some of the parts you raided, I hope you don't mind. There are only 3 carrier-based aircraft on this ship, and I think my Zero needs to be upgraded. No, how could you mind? But is the second lieutenant? Kira, who was usually gentle, felt a bit at a loss. The minimum rank for joint forces to pilot fighter jets or MA is second lieutenant, so as a temporary carrier-based pilot of the Archangel, you have been promoted from a civilian to second lieutenant at an astonishing speed in a day. Captain Flag, your body has been basically repaired and modified, but the new equipment cannot guarantee the accuracy of the first round. You need to calibrate it yourself during the battle. Maduk, the sergeant, drifted over. Also, since it is a temporary renovation, be careful not to hit those components as they may explode. Therefore, once hit, be sure to abandon them in a timely manner. I can't see it in the cockpit either. So I installed a local method for you. Madoka pointed his thumb at the modified Mobius Zero. I have welded 4 new cameras to your body specifically for observing the status of additional equipment. Welding. Kira and Li Ping followed the thumb of Murdoch's sergeant and looked over, both of them crying ugly with the current Mobius Zero. On both sides of the fuselage, 2 beam pistols were welded to prepare for the assault equipment. In order to power these 2 pistols, 2 GE.series backup batteries were welded to the lower part of the middle and rear parts of the Mobius Zero fuselage. Then, energy cables were used to connect the 2. A hole was opened in the nose of the aircraft, and a 120mm battleship Gatling was inserted into the assault gun battle backpack. 3 pylons were welded to each of the 4 floating line-controlled gun barrels, and 2 missiles used by Mobius were hung on each pylon. I originally intended to equip her with a powerful, Yihua, high-frequency pulse gun, but I didn't have time to perform such a big surgery on Zero, and there was no spare artillery backpack available. I had to make a slight temporary modification. Marshal Maduk scratched his head a bit embarrassed. Kira's eyes were sharp as she saw the renovation plan displayed on the tablet in Maduk's hand. As shown above, the modified Mobius Zero lost its barrel that could be released. The barrel was completely fixed on the fuselage and was modified to be a new component of the high-frequency pulse gun, fire, at the front. A set of thrusters was added at the rear, and 6 sets of batteries were added to the Zero fuselage to power a total of 4 high-frequency pulse guns and 2 beam rifles mounted below the fuselage. 120mm Gatling and multiple 350mm anti-ship missiles are mounted on both sides of the fuselage with the little brain of Kirana's super adjuster. The outcome of the raid and the Zero encounter was instantly simulated. I said. So what is the purpose of your MS manufacturing? Kira kept repeating this sentence in her mind. End of this chapter.